Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Back in the saddle. We are Real Kyper and Bourne live on Sportsnet 590. Our YouTube channel, Sportsnet Now, iTunes, Spotify. Glad you're aboard for the next couple of hours as we go into game night. Florida Panthers in town to play the Toronto Maple Leafs. Winners of 3 of 4 as we hit the halfway mark. We're wondering, is anyone going to push Tampa, Toronto, Boston in the Atlantic? As much as I've heard all week how the Ottawa Senators still want to play meaningful games.
You got to win.
Somewhere you got to start winning. Last night, that didn't happen, but it did for the Florida Panthers beating the Buffalo Sabres. So is that all that's left?
For teams that could get into the mix?
Florida Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, the Buffalo Sabres could concede. I mean, it's a long shot. I think they're 13 points behind Tampa Bay, so unlikely for Buffalo. But Florida, the reason Florida, I'm less skeptical of them is their season last year. Things have not gone well this year, but were they to get some goaltending, you can see that there's a lot of good players on that team. You could see them getting hot, could you not? As you mentioned, 3 of 4, and if you do the fancy stats sorting, they're pretty good. They at creating offense. They're one of the best teams in the NHL at creating offensive opportunities. So there's something there.
Okay, let's we'll stay on that theme before we get into the lineup changes with Sheldon Keefe. But first, let's get his thoughts on the Panthers.
You know, some things have changed and some things have remained the same. I mean, you know, we talked this morning that we just played against Boston, who's one of the top offensive teams in the league, and in many statistical categories, this team actually trends higher than them and better than them. So in that sense, offensively, they've just been extremely dynamic. They make a lot of plays. Their defensemen are very involved in a lot that they do and very good at around your net, all of that kind of stuff. So they present a great deal of challenges there, great in transition. So all of those things, I think, have held true to last season as well. You know, I haven't watched closely enough or long enough over the season to pinpoint, you know, why it hasn't worked out as well for them. But in terms of the respect we have for them and as a team and their players, that's unchanged. And statistically, you look at it, and you know, it's a dangerous-looking team.
The most Sheldon Keefe comment ever, that this team is better than the Bruins.
Oh, I was kind of focusing on this chocolate that Derek gave me just prior to the show. Is that true that Sheldon said in many ways the Panthers are better than the Boston Bruins? Where?
Offensively, they check, you know, in terms of creating, so expected goals is what I'm talking about in Sport Logic. They're a top team in the NHL. I mean, they still get a ton of opportunities when they play. Just sorting through it, they're third in shot attempts, third in shot on net, second in slot shots, first in inner slot shots in the league. So they get to the dangerous areas and they get pucks on net.
Was one category, can they stop a puck anywhere?
Oh, yeah, there's a category, and they're 50th in that. They're legit 50th. Spencer Knight is 50th in goals saved above expected. 50th.
Okay, so.
Well, it's not good.
How many goalies are there? 62,
well,
64?
Therein lies the problem with the Florida Panthers.
Sometimes it's that simple.
It's their own zone.
Yeah.
It's the blue line, and it's the lack of getting a big save.
It is. And even their defensive stats, like whatever you think of underlying numbers, are not terrible. They're a top 10 team. They're around 10th in the NHL in giving up slot shots and chances, and 15th in expected goals against. So, yeah, they're not the best defensive team, but they aren't as bad as their goalies make them look.
In the next 2 hours, we're going to be joined by Ed Jovanovski, of course, big-time former NHL defenseman with Florida, who's doing a Panthers TV. He's going to come down and break us a few things down on what we can expect out of the Panthers. Keith Tkachuk, proud papa,
yes,
of Matthew and Brady, will be along as well, former NHL player, tough guy.
Tkachuk.
Who's that again?
Gilbert Gottfried.
Oh, Gilbert
Rest in
Gottfried.
peace.
Yes. We'll always have that from Gilbert.
We will have that. Do you know that there are 3 players in the NHL that are leading their team in both points and PIMs?
I suppose that one of them will be playing tonight against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Tkachuk.
That is one of the 3. Can you guess the other 2?
The brother?
Yep. That's 2.
Do they have another brother?
Yeah, Steve Tkachuk. No, the other one is
Hold on.
Okay. Bad team.
Bad team. East or West?
What's Chicago in?
Another famous dad.
Yes. Very good.
Max Domi.
Correct.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. Had a brain fart on Chicago.
So,
being in the
just to
Central.
round it up, Mike McKenna, Daily Face-Off in the next hour as well. So, terrific show booked by yours truly, Sammy
Standing
McKee.
Sammy. We didn't even discuss this one. This was just, hey, boys, here's who's coming on
Yeah.
tomorrow. What a lineup.
Okay. That's just, let's keep the expectations down. Once in a while, I get hot. It's like anything. So, just talking about how bad the goaltending is for the Florida Panthers. And their next year will be paying their 2 goalies $14.5 million.
Is that good?
For 3 full seasons at $14.5 million for their 2 goalies. With Spencer Knight and Sergei Bobrovsky.
Knight's save percentage is in .899 through 19 starts.
That's just a train wreck.
Bad. So what do you do? I mean, no one's taking your bad goalie who costs a lot.
Okay.
Let's
I assume
Yeah, just move
that
on.
this is going to be the push right now from Florida.
Yeah.
Like if they cannot slip here. 3 out of 4 in a short sample size, maybe playing their best hockey of the year.
Sure.
Right now.
Yep.
So I assume that this is a must win for them against an Atlantic Division team. Like you cannot lose to Toronto and still think that you can make up ground here.
No, they're at that point now where they've burnt their grace period, and they're not going to win every game from here on out. But you need to start stockpiling points to climb the standings, but also so your GM takes you seriously and gives you players that make you better and not worse at the deadline. Like you don't have until mid-April; you have until the end of February to show that you got a chance to get in the fight.
There is no wiggle room here. They're much like a handful of teams, including the Toronto Maple Leafs, where the salary cap will not allow them to make a lot of changes here. And the worst about it is that they don't even have first rounders in the next 3 years to dangle. At least Kyle does.
Yeah. Looking at their team, the problem, they don't have much on the back end. Like Brandon Montour has been a bright spot for them. Carter Verhaeghe up front has been good, but there's just, I don't know. The more you look at it, the more you think last year was the aberration and not what's going on this year.
And just as a note, I had told you that Spencer Knight might be starting tonight. He is on he's hurt right now. So it's going to be either Bobrovsky in the second half
it's
of a
gonna be a
back-to-back
kid.
or Alex Leon.
I think it's the kid.
Yeah. Well, he's not
What is
much
he?
of a kid. He's 30 years old.
Alex who?
Lyon.
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 Played for the Flyers for a little bit.
He's in minor league guy.
Minor league, up and down.
That's why I don't know him.
24 career starts in the NHL.
24.
Yeah. This will be his 25th if he goes tonight.
I
but
imagine
apparently
that's
Maurice,
who they're going to put in.
Maurice didn't announce a goalie this morning. Said there's a chance they go back to Bobrovsky. Who's 4-1-0 with a .919 save percentage over his last 5 starts.
Okay, there you go. He's maybe starting to pick it up. Eric Stahl has 38 games and 14 points.
The analytics on Florida, at least when it comes to the offense, does bode well for why they were successful last year.
That's true. Yeah, if you had better shooting percentage, better
They're
goaltending.
still a fairly dangerous team on a night-to-night basis, but the blue line is it was the trade that actually probably hurt them defensively more than ever by losing Weegar, McKenzie.
Weegar's been great for Calgary. Like he felt like such a throw-in in that trade. I know we know he was a substantial piece, but it just felt like they were so
hated him in Florida.
What was that about?
They just didn't think he knew what he was doing defensively.
Yeah. It really feels like they did the complete opposite of the Leafs, where they got swept by Tampa Bay and they said, can't win with this group, too soft, over, and they turned it over and said, forget it, not going to win this all
Mid the trade.
Rather than just saying, we had some success this season, let's not overreact to 4 games here. And boy, did they overreact.
And it's not like it's working out great for Calgary either. They're hanging on, and
they miss having elite talent, like top-end talent.
They're in a challenge here, and Huberdeau, the style of play that he had that was successful for him is almost like the complete opposite of what works in Calgary.
Yeah.
Because East-West and having that flow game that we were accustomed to seeing in the 80s before the two of you were born.
I was born in the
80s. I'm an 82.
Yeah, I was kind of just...
Okay.
I get what you're
I was joking.
Yeah, I get it.
But I'm
I appreciate
close.
you think I'm that young. Man. I was born in the 90s? Wow.
But that's the East-West, the drop passes, the flow, all of it is it's not flying with Daryl, and it's not flying with Jonathan because he cannot produce like he did in Florida.
What's so weird, though, is how Gaudreau figured it out. He figured out a way to play a way that Sutter would tolerate while still getting to do the things that made him effective. And I feel like that's a challenge. Like when you're Huberdeau and you play a certain way to create your offense, the coach says, I don't like the way you play. And then you got to kind of go, okay, well, should I do it the way I know it works or do it the way that this guy wants me to do it? I think he's probably been searching for his Flames identity. Not to mention the big contract now, a little bit extra weight.
All right, we're going to go to Jovanovski in about 10 minutes. But before that, let's talk about the lineup changes for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Sheldon Keefe will give us an update on that and what the Florida Panthers can be looking at tonight.
Murray's in that, yeah. And on the other guys, Sandin and Holmberg, it's for them, they're feeling better. Obviously, they're here and able to skate, but we determined that giving them more time to get back up to full strength and have a day of eating proper food and keeping it down, all that kind of stuff would serve them well, so they won't be available tonight.
No, I get
they were sick.
I get it. I get the flu. I get all of that. I've been on. It doesn't matter whatever area you are.
I'm waiting for the butt on this.
No, the butt is that I'm starting to get a real sense here that whether it's the flu or even a minor injury, a hangnail, they're just not in a pressing need to get people in the lineup to win, with a sense of urgency from here on in. They're gonna do what they have to do in a grand picture to get ready for the playoffs. Do you not get that sense?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I just feel like in general that's the way they operate, where they're like, it's middle of the season.
No, more
what's
so
one
now.
Game? You think
more so. And it has everything to do with the fact that Boston's gone and run away with this thing.
Maybe. It certainly could. Like, what is the point in having a guy force his way through when it's not a matter of making the playoffs or finishing here or there?
Yeah,
we got the luxury of saying,
kind of caught.
Take a day.
They're kind of caught where we don't have to push these guys.
That's not good.
Well, no, I don't know if it's not good or not.
It's definitely not good.
Why? Why is it not good?
If you go from here the next 39 games of the season going, well,
I don't think it'll be like that because guys generally want to play.
Right.
Right? If you're healthy, if you feel good, put me in. I want my cookies. I want my points. And then I'll flip the switch
and try when it's playoffs?
Not try. Just they just won't push the envelope. That's all.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
That's
Maybe
the smart thing, right?
Maybe,
Isn't it? Wouldn't you say it's a smart thing to do?
I think it gives them the best chance to kind of be ready, I think, for the first round. And you will still hit some key games like we saw Saturday night. Austin taking 2 nights off didn't stop them from having playoff type intensity Saturday night, did it?
No, I guess not. And it is the right thing to do, right? Like, you're sick, stay away from the team, although it doesn't sound like they're away from the team. But
they skated, I think, today.
Did they?
They did.
They had a couple of
rinks.
rinks.
As Brody did.
Yeah, there's a bunch of rinks down at their facility there.
Yeah. Go cough on that rink, will you?
Did you guys see the video I sent you of Brody skating today?
Wasn't long enough for me to reach the conclusion you did. You didn't like the look, eh?
Didn't look like he was enjoying the stride.
Yeah, but you don't get the You don't get to see in 5 seconds on the internet what the drill was all about or what the emphasis was on his first 3 strides.
If the drill was don't rotate your trunk, he was really excelling at the drill. Yeah, it is. There is some concern there. It's funny how quickly you lose a guy or two, and this is a eye-opener reminder from playoffs. You lose Brody, Sandin, is got the sniffles, and now your third pair is Ben Timmins, which you hope they can shoot better than Ben Simmons of the NBA. But Ben Timmins is not a playoff pairing. So,
but they have the lily pad.
The lily pad is
and Sheldon
there. Yes.
speaks very highly of the lily pad.
Yes.
Let's go to Sheldon on that one.
But I think it's just with Lily in particular, I would put it to the consistency. Like he had times last season where you could really see him popping, and for that, I would point to like physicality on the rush and killing plays early and winning a puck back, and then launching the transition, or just the way the puck's coming off his stick in the offensive zone, and it's just happening more frequently, and he seems to be that much more comfortable in playing both sides of the puck here this season. So, yeah, he's really took big steps last season, and he seems to have maintained that and continued to find the consistency necessary to just be a guy that is just in your lineup, and you're happy to have him, and you can lean on him when you really need to. And he seems like he's been able to handle anything we've thrown his way.
It's all legit.
So, Timothy Liljegren, this is from Sportsnet Stats. They sent out a great stat pack. He is number 1 on the team in goal share at 5-on-5 for the Leafs. He's been on the ice for 27 goals for and 13 goals against. So 67.5.
Yeah, that's a big advantage the Leafs have for a third pair is they handle their minutes.
Morgan Rielly has been on for 20 goals for and 23 against.
Yeah. Obviously, the context is who you're playing against.
Yeah, and Rielly is one of 2 players in the league that have played 20-plus games and are only defenseman on their team with a negative plus-minus.
Cool.
Noah Dobson is the other one on the Islanders.
Yeah. Let me just say on the Keefe quote.
Those aren't pretty.
No, it's not good. It's not good. On the Keefe quote about how he's become a guy that you just have in your lineup and you're happy to have him.
Which is great, but...
It's praise.
Yes.
Ish.
Yeah.
But, I think for a lot of guys, that's what you want from your team. And that's what I want to hear about Justin Hall. I want to hear that you're happy to have him and you just don't think about him and whatever.
Those are great qualities if you're kind of slotted into, I would say, 3, 4, 5.
He's in every night. We don't think about him. He does
6.
his job.
Right?
Right.
Just the 1 and the 2.
Yeah.
Is that you want. And that leads us to Morgan Rielly.
Yeah.
Where he's been lost since he's come back. I don't know any other way to kind of frame it.
Yeah.
But he looks like he's just caught on what he wants to be on any particular night.
Yeah. Would you love it if he was your second best defenseman? Wouldn't that be good?
I don't even think his plays warrants that right now.
Yeah.
But what is Morgan Rielly to you?
Yeah. Morgan Rielly has always been as a number 1 guy in the NHL, a little extended to call a true number 1, but there's 32 teams, so he's a true number 1. He's one of the 32 best D in the league, but at the tail end of that group. And so asking him to be the number 1 guy without a real, Lindholm to McAvoy or Sergachev to Hedman, to be this true standalone number 1 guy, you're falling behind the good teams with him as your number 1. And it's not meant as a knock on Rielly. That's just the construction of the team. They don't have an elite number 1. They have a number 1 in Rielly, but not an elite number 1.
He's
not even a top half number
1. For me,
1.
He's starting to go into that place where he's going to get knocked. He is going to get knocked.
What do you mean by knocked? By verbally?
Yeah, you say you can't knock him.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And I'm saying there's some plays out there now where he's in between. He's caught.
Yeah.
Whether or not he should stay or go. And the fan base is going to start really knocking on him soon.
It's happening online now.
You think it's already it's full blown?
Hey, Sammy,
where's Rielly on the grand scheme of things of
I would
the
say
blame game right now?
I would say borderline the number one talking point
you're starting to take
amongst
some
the
heat.
fan base.
Yeah.
So it's percolated from
Justin Hall is just Homer Simpson into the bushes. Just
it's percolated from below the surface to very near the surface in terms of talking points.
Well,
here
for me, I watch him and he doesn't know whether to.
I think that's a good point that you're making.
Doesn't know.
Are you an offensive
where to
defenseman?
Go, where to go, what to do. It seems every decision he makes is a bad one.
So here's what I want to know from you, and is it better to have him commit to being the offensive guy? The Leafs don't have any offense from the back end, Nick. They got none. They have no offense from their D.
The answer to that is no.
So don't you want to get it from someone?
No.
That's just more pressure on your boy Mitch.
Okay, he can handle it, and so can Austin.
Yeah.
I'd sooner want this team to lose 2-1.
Mm-hmm. Then say go outscore Rielly's latest.
Then go out there and just find a way to win 7-5.
It's not helping Rielly.
I would go back and I'd watch games with Morgan when he wasn't in the lineup and watch our D and watch the percentages of the plays that they make, right? And the risk factor.
Yeah.
And we were really good when you weren't there. But watch the decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where Morgan gets himself in trouble, is that he's going against the grain of everything that worked in the month of November when he wasn't there. And I think he needs to simplify his game and just focus on being on the right side and being incredibly cautious when he's on the ice. That's where I would start with Morgan Rielly.
This sounds whatever. Don't you think he could benefit if his playing style were a bit more like Mark Giordano's? In that the thought now for Giordano is he doesn't care if he ever gets another point. He won a Norris Trophy, right? He just wants to be the guy who breaks it out quick, gets it up the rink, like do those sort of defensive things. And I understand that's a big switch for Rielly, but what does the tail half of his career look like if it's a success? It's probably not being Erik Karlsson. Do we have a guess?
Yeah, we're gonna go to Jovo, and maybe we can just pick this conversation right up.
Perfect guy to talk to.
Ed Jovanovski, former NHL defenseman. He knows a little bit through his close to 1,200 National Hockey League games. Jovo, thanks for joining us, man. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, guys. Thanks.
Yeah, listen.
Everything good over there?
Yeah, it's okay. I mean,
it's January in Canada, Ed.
Breaking it down with a microscope here. You know this city, right?
Right in the thick of it.
Yeah, we're just talking about when certain defensemen get caught between where is my true strengths? Is it on offense? Is it on defense? I mean, you've had success on both sides of the puck in your career. Morgan Rielly is the guy that seems to be a bit of a whipping boy these days here up in Toronto. But when things aren't going well on both sides, what does a defenseman do to kind of get himself back on track?
Well, you guys have, I'm sure, heard this and seen it through your days, but maybe a little easier said than done, but just keep it simple. Every time there was a point in my career where, wouldn't say overwhelmed, but just kind of like too much, and it just let the puck do the work. Get into a game, focus on making a good first pass, getting back quick, having that couple extra seconds to make that pass, and let the puck do the work. Don't try to beat that extra guy. His skating is so good, so he's always going to be that fourth and fifth man, up. Get the puck at the point. Listen, you don't have a lane, get it back behind the net. Don't complicate things.
Mm-hmm.
And in the D zone, do your own job. Sometimes you feel like you're kind of bigger than you can play two positions, right?
Yeah.
Instead of kind of taking care of your own, you try to help your buddy. Just kind of complicates the things, and then at the end of the day, it's your guy that ends up scoring. So just kind of focus on what you can focus on, and things will kind of fall into place. He's a guy that's going to get ample opportunity. He plays in every situation. I haven't been following the struggles of Rielly, but been there, done that. You know what it feels. It's just about getting your confidence back, right?
Yeah.
And he's an elite defenseman, and I'm sure it's right there for him.
Yeah, a little bit of patience would go a long way when you're naturally talented. You tend to figure it out, which is a natural segue to talk
We're seeing
about
here
Florida.
with Ekblad as well.
Yeah, oh yeah.
We're seeing the same thing a little bit with Aaron Ekblad too. I mean, he's been injured, so he comes back. He feels like he can do a little bit more. Being off for a while, the conditioning's not there. And he's just starting to you can see his game picking up, but you can see the confidence was lacking. These top players, you always say it have feelings too, and always you try to, get their confidence, try to keep the game as simple as possible until you feel that confidence to maybe do a little bit more.
Yeah, and I'm wondering with that whole decor for Florida, obviously this team had a ton of success last year. Maybe struggling a little bit more on the defensive side of things than the offensive side of things. Is the decor the issue there?
Well, it's all, you talk about that trade and I'm always asked, what do you think of the trade? Listen, you bring in Matthew Tkachuk with the age 24. He's been everything and more coming into this situation in Florida. Aaron Ekblad played with Mackenzie Weegar for a better part of a handful of years. So the chemistry was there. They were playing in all situations together. You know what it's like when you have that, that confidence and that familiarity that you're playing with your partner for years. I've done it too, where I have a partner for a few years. It's great. Then you bring in someone else and then maybe you're switching sides, right? You're not playing your normal position. I think it has had a little bit of a trickle-down effect on the back end. Montour has done an unbelievable job kind of filling in to that Weegar position. And now you got Mahura, a guy playing more minutes. Forsling, who's having another great year. He's playing a little bit more minutes. So, I mean, that trickle-down effect has had a little bit of an issue on the back end. But over the last handful of games, you can see him getting a little bit stingy on the back end, a little bit more attention to detail, getting the pucks out in certain areas where they were turning those pucks over early on and it was ended up in your net. So you can see their all-around game, something that they've preached from day one, trying to build that playoff-style hockey that wasn't working early on. But you can start seeing the message getting through to the guys from the coach.
We're talking to Ed Jovanovski, former NHL defenseman, now working for Panthers television for Bally Sports. Jovo, 11 points behind Tampa in the Atlantic, and Tampa.
We're not looking that far, Kyper.
Tampa's got 3 games in hand. So what is the sense in Florida that they're still in it, that they can come back? Where's the attention now?
Well, Pittsburgh and Washington, I think right now, you're looking in those wild card positions being 4 points out of that position. Yeah, Florida's played 45 games, or, Wash has played 46, but I think kind of getting into those areas there is you got to go on a serious heater, I think, to get into those situations. But I think right now, Kyper, as you know, game at a time, right? I think tonight's going to be a nice measuring stick, kind of see if they can continue this, playing well. They haven't won 3 games in a row all year, which is like mind-blowing, right? When you look at this team, what they did last year and on the runs that they would go on. So trying to develop that consistency. But yeah, looking into those wild card positions, kind of sneaking into those areas is something that, I know the guys are looking at.
Just one more on before I go to you, JB. Just the big trade and how everybody spoke of it being a win-win. When the Panthers struggle, is that something that the marketplace would go back and revisit? Is that talk amongst the hockey people down there? I know what it would be like in Canada to revisit that on the struggles of Florida and Calgary. So what is the narrative off that blockbuster trade that ultimately landed you guys Matthew Tkachuk?
Well, first of all, I'm not sure this big trade even made the paper when it happened way back then. So let's about the media. I mean, it's not like it's heavily covered. I think there's, I mean, the easy thing to say, Kyper, is, the team has struggled, and you know what, they shouldn't have, got rid of Huberdeau and Weegar. Yeah, it's kind of the easy cop-out thing to do. I think if this trade was there again to be made, I think Bill Zito pulls the trigger. It's up to the guys, too, to come out and perform. They just didn't perform early on, and things were snowballing. You just couldn't get out of a rut. Matthew Tkachuk is come in here and done an unbelievable job. I don't need to go over his numbers, but what he does also is kind of, drag the boys into the fight. And this team gets in the playoffs. I'm curious to see kind of what his game, how this team will transform in the playoffs, because he's that type of player that I think is well suited for the playoffs. And frankly, I think, you look at that last couple of years, there wasn't much fight, on the front end by the guys, specifically the guy that they moved. It wasn't, in the playoff time, as you know, your star players get checked a little bit harder, and you got to fight through that. And I like Matthew Tkachuk in that position.
Yeah, for sure. A guy I wanted to ask you about was the guy who keeps getting all the most underrated player in the league conversation and Selke conversation, Barkov. How has his year been?
Well, he's not, by his standards, not great.
Yeah,
I think he battled pneumonia there early on, and he was out, and he was, coming back. It's always tough, from that illness, getting your conditioning back. But, you see spurts of it, why, maybe the number. He's a point-a-game guy right now still, 35 games. He's got 35 points. But what he does in key situations, right, guys, he's a face-off guy, the way he, that horse centerman in the middle, the way that he can track back and break up plays, the way that he can layer in the defensive zone, where he's really kind of covering up as that next man for the defenseman to start the breakout out. So there's many facets that, probably the normal guy is not really looking at. That is a difference that he's contributing. I mean, certainly you want his offensive numbers to pick up. And I think right now where this team is, not a better time for the horse to lead the way for this group.
Hey, Jovo, 24 years ago today, where were you?
Yeah, I was brought up earlier. Yeah, that's pack your bags up, Joel. Thanks for coming. 22 years old. We're going to ship you off to Vancouver. Thanks for everything. Yeah, listen, it was, my daughter was 6 months old at the time when I got traded. So it was just like, I'm like, oh my God, now what? I get traded the next morning, 6 a.m. I'm on a flight to Dallas, Nashville, back to back. I got Iron Mike as my coach. He played me 29 and 32 minutes back to back, and then get to Vancouver. Mark Crawford's our coach. So, and then I didn't see the sun for 19 days when I got to the old British Columbia, but it worked out pretty good for me in Vancouver. It was a city that I didn't really, want to leave when I went to Phoenix.
Was there any sense of you being a part of that, or was that just like dropped right into your lap?
You know what? I should have known this. In quick story, sorry, the dogs are barking. I was in Vancouver. We were playing Vancouver, and it was morning skate, and I'm out there, and I'm watching the team Vancouver skate, and Gar Snow skates by him. He's like, "Hey, Jovo, what number do you want?"
Oh, no way.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh, shit. I'm like, oh, here we go. So, yeah, sure enough, I think a month later, there I am, with the, got the trade and is what it was. But I ran into Berkey, actually, when he was down here, and he was telling, actually, my son, he's like, I wasn't making that trade unless your dad was in that trade, So, yeah, it was good times over there, but certainly at 22 with a newborn at home, you just never expected. And you also, where you were drafted, in an organization, you didn't think after a couple of years, that just kind of pull the plug on you, but is what it is.
Just from afar, for someone that has spent a lot of time in that Vancouver Canuck organization, oh man, it's tough to watch. I would imagine for you even more so, because you know how great it can be there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and it's a great market. They just like Toronto, right? It's hockey 24/7, and when things are going well, it's a real special place. And it's unfortunate how things have kind of evolved. There were goalie situations, and now you got kind of a captain that's not sure where that's going to go. I'm sure Bruce has already got his luggage packed. Yeah. I mean, who knows how this is going to unfold? And, the comments that are, Jimmy Rutherford coming out there that just got to really kind of dive into kind of finding out what issues are. But it's tough, and things, especially in a market where they're so hockey crazy and the passion is there. And it happened to me when I got there. We were like, very 13,000 people there. The next year, throughout my career, there was a complete sellout all those years. So it kind of got the team kind of back on, that respectability. And it seems like now watching the games, you see, quite a bit of empty seats. So hopefully they can kind of get it together there and figure things out.
Well, happy anniversary on your 24 years ago today, where Pavel Bure was also thrown into the trade, was he not?
Yeah, exactly. You know what really ticked me off on that whole thing was my paychecks got smaller for some reason.
Came up to Canada from Florida. That's tough.
Jovo, really appreciate.
I'm like, what happened here?
Yeah, really appreciate your time.
Anytime, guys.
Okay, Ed Jovanovski, former NHL defenseman, former Vancouver Canuck, 24 years ago, traded for Pavel Bure.
I don't know if you can have a much worse tax swing on your check, can you? Going from no income tax in Florida?
What was the actual trade? What was the total trade?
I'm pulling it up right now. It was Brett Hedican, Brad Ferentz, conditional draft pick with Bure to Florida for Dave Gagne, Ed Jovanovski, Kevin Weeks, Mike Brown, and a conditional draft pick.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a blockbuster.
Yeah, that's a blockbuster.
That's a block. But Jovo was 6'3", 220, 500 career points on the schnoz, by the way.
And it must have been for those 2 years after Pavel got traded to Florida. The 2 years he went 58, 59 goals.
Oh,
the first 2 seasons he went to Florida.
Electric.
If you're Jovo trying to live up to that stay-at-home defenseman playing in the gloom in Vancouver.
And then they're taking an extra 30% off your paycheck.
Yeah, great.
Jovo did mention the thought of a wild card in the East for Florida. They are...
Yeah, that's a good thought.
Well, it is, but it's one of those where Washington is 8 in front of them, and
that's a lot.
Pitt is 4 in front of them with 2 games in hand. And we believe one of Washington, Pitt, or the Islanders will miss the playoffs, right? Are we not? Are we there now?
If Florida gets in, 2 of them have to miss.
That's right.
Right. Washington, Pitt, and the
Islanders. Who is that realistic?
Bad news for my Islanders.
Washington, Pitt, and the Island 2 will miss the playoffs for Florida to get in at this point? I wouldn't bet on that.
I've watched a couple Penguins games recently.
I know.
They're a little stinky too.
I would, they're missing Jari, which is obviously huge.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about the Penguinos.
I know. And you know what? We've been saying that for 2.5, 3 years. And every time we do, Sid and Mike Sullivan bail them out.
Guess what? We've also limp into the first round and get dummied.
I don't care. They get in.
Right. Yeah,
guess what? We also said, these kind of things about Tom Brady. And then we watched last night. So to me, it's just, I would bet, if I had to make a bet right now on who would make the playoffs this year, either the Cats or the Penguins, I'd probably get some value on the Panthers, and I'd probably take them.
You did pick Brady at the end of yesterday's show, by the way.
Yeah, I don't
What
want
did I
to
tell
look.
you?
I don't want to look like an idiot betting against the goat.
And what did I tell you? What did I tell you?
You're right. Listen, I can live with going down with the goat. You know,
Divorce, not his year.
No, tough year.
Tough year.
selfish,
Yes.
selfish, incredibly selfish.
I
move
just
by him.
could not have any less time for
Did
an
you
athlete.
catch his post-game
No,
press
I didn't.
conference?
Did
I
he
was
cry? Tell
snoring.
me he cried.
Well, it was like he was thanking everybody.
Not about the divorce, but the loss. Oh, okay.
Oh,
is he
it was
retiring again?
Well, it sounded like thanks,
Yeah. Wolf,
goodbye, at least
Wolf.
Tampa.
Yeah.
Oh, he's going somewhere else.
No, he's going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's my guess
him and
too.
him and
Please don't go away for the Jets.
well,
Don't do it.
Him and
I'd
Sean-
rather watch Zach Wilson throw it 6 yards downfield to the other team than Tom Brady.
him and Sean Payton are going to team up, go to the Jets, and they're going to win a Super Bowl, and you're just going to have to love them. Anyways,
I don't think I could do it. I truly don't.
yeah, you
All right.
could.
Enough Brady.
Okay.
Now Keith Tkachuk. We will be discussing the Sun
other Brady.
combination, leading scorers, leading PMs. I'm sure Dad wouldn't have it any other way. Keith Tkachuk after the break. You're watching and listening to Real Kyper and Bourne.
From
This is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Toronto Maple Leafs ready to battle tonight against the Florida Panthers, who in many ways are looking at a must-win game. Florida will come in all juiced up. Matthew Tkachuk ready to battle.
Yeah. I mean, they're in a back-to-back, but they're going to bring it.
We don't have Matthew Tkachuk as our next guest, but we have someone close.
Very close.
Yeah. The man who is responsible for putting him on this planet. How's that for an opening? Let's welcome in Keefe Tkachuk. Not bad. Now, before we get going, are you still the director of recruitment for the St. Louis Blues?
Correct. That is correct.
Do you suck because you couldn't get your own kid there?
I must suck. I don't think my kid wanted to deal with me every day, so he decided to go elsewhere.
Oh, man. And, is that like a part-time thing? Or, I mean, are you on the road? How hard are you working at this?
I'm on the road a lot. I work. I mean, I'm an empty nester now. It's just the wife and I, so I want to get out, and I work for the Blues, and I do it full time. I like doing the college free agents and help out with the amateur draft, and whatever they need me to do, I'll do. I just can't sit around here all day.
And you weren't tempted to fly up to watch this game tonight against the Leafs?
100% no. We just had Ottawa in town. First of all, it's a grind just to get to Canada these days,
Yes.
you know. So, but no, we had Ottawa Senators in town. So we had the night before, Sunday night, we had all the trainers over and some of the younger players over. So it was good. So I'm just trying to recover.
So obviously you've been paying a lot more attention to the Florida Panthers this year. Their son changing teams. What has the initial experience looked like from your perspective?
Well, you know what? Matthew's happy. They're starting to play better now as a team. They went through a lot of injuries at the beginning of the year, and they just weren't clicking great. There was always something going on. Players missing. They had to play short because of the salary cap. But they've been traveling a lot. So I think things are settling down now. I mean, obviously they're not happy where they are. But, it's nice getting down to Florida for a few days here and there with the weather and stuff, but no, he's enjoying himself, and it's been a good transition. He loved Calgary, but wanted a change of pace, and it is what it is. And the Atlantic Division, the East in general, is really hard this year, especially the Atlantic. So, there's some great teams, Boston, Toronto, and Tampa are really standing out this year. So it's going to be a grind till the end.
We know that Calgary was in a tough situation, like most free agents at that age who are really good. When we talk about Matthew being 1 year away from unrestricted free agency, and I know, joking aside, we talked about him possibly, going to St. Louis, but can I ask you, did the conversations between you and Matthew and the possibility of going home, were they serious considerations, not the pros and cons of it? Did you guys go through that process?
You know what, Matthew's a pretty intelligent kid. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He knows what he's doing. I felt with St. Louis and Matthew was a little bit a tough situation for me, so I stayed out of it. I wanted Matthew to make his own decision, but he talked to Doug right when he became a free agent, where they're allowed under the CBA, and he had some good conversations with Doug. I don't know how far it went. Obviously, when Florida came into play, I think right then he decided that's the place he wanted to go. It's always somebody's dream to play in their hometown, but this situation he felt was better fit for him.
We were talking before you came on, and there's 3 players in the NHL that are leading their teams in points and PIMS. 2 of them are your sons, which is a pretty cool stat. Would you say that the PIMS part comes naturally to them, or did you encourage them to play a little bit more aggressively? I'm asking because I have a 6-year-old.
Well, hopefully the 6-year-old's not going out there doing some of the stuff.
No, he's not nearly tough enough yet, Keith. I'm working on him.
Well, I wouldn't say that. But no, you know what? The boys, I like the fact that the boys play the game hard and they'll do things to help out their team win and, play in the tough areas. And that's what it's all about. It's not all about, fighting or doing this. It's about getting your nose dirty and sending the right message to your team. And if you have to take a penalty, that's the way it goes. But, hopefully they're not in there too much. I think Matthew needs to make sure he's on the ice more. The wins are so critical. And I think Brady will fight. I mean, that's what I love the fact about him. Like, he's not willing to back. He's not going to back down to anybody, and they play the game hard, and I respect that.
Your experience, not only playing, but also being a dad, minor hockey, watching Brady and Matthew come up through the ranks, and just the type of players that they are today, we don't see that many, Keith, anymore. So in your opinion, is it because we're not asking players to play that way anymore, or are we just not finding players willing to do it?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, I think nowadays I think everybody wants to be a skilled player. I mean, when they're a kid, which is great. That's what you want to teach at a young age. You want to make sure these guys have, the proper ingredients to play, to be successful in skill work and skating and stuff like that, and it's some of that grind that you have in there that compete. I mean, it's got to be within you. You got to want to be able to play in an uncomfortable situation, and kids nowadays are treated different too. You got to remember that. There's not, with the hitting has kind of gone away in the youth hockey, which is great because you don't want to see these kids getting hurt. But then again, some of these kids are so focused on skill, they put themselves in some difficult situations and they get clobbered out there. So It's a fine line, I guess, but I like the fact that, when things aren't going well for you individually as skill-wise with the puck, there's another ingredient that you can bring to help your team. And I think that's why I love the fact that they're willing to play a physical game and playing in your face and agitate a little bit, I guess. But I think it's the compete level that's the most important for me. And anybody, every time I told my kids, I don't care if they score goals or do this or do that. It's willing to compete and be a good teammate. And they've done a good job of that.
That I would say has been a fair criticism of the Toronto Maple Leafs. The team we talk about every day is, having the guys in the big moments and that willingness. And, they look for it on the free agent market every year. They brought in Nick Foligno for a first overall pick. This year in looking for guys, a name that has come up once in a while is Ryan O'Reilly. Now, you guys are only 4 points out of a playoff spot and obviously not in a selling position. But I am curious about O'Reilly and his season so far. This guy I think he won a Selke trophy. He's always a contender. He's a -28 right now, which is very unlike him throughout his career. What has O'Reilly's season looked like?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, and obviously whatever happens to him is above my pay grade, but
Right.
the fact that he's the guy that won the Conn Smythe for the Stanley Cup champion St. Louis Blues. So in our minds, he's a hero here. He's a great player. He's such a professional. He's such a great guy. One of the hardest working guys. That plus minus stat is really unfair, really, because he plays against. I mean, it's just one of those years where it just everything seems to have gone wrong. But you know, he's a competitor. He's a worker. He's loved by his teammates, and he wants to get better. And it's just one of those stats. And whatever happens with him happens. I mean, he's done so much in such a little time here in St. Louis. Not only with the Conn Smythe and winning the championship, it's how, you know, these younger players look up to him and see his work ethic and see what he does to get better each and every day. And unfortunately, he's hurt right now, which is bad timing. But, you know, we strung a couple wins together. But once he gets back, you know, we can make another run. I mean, we're behind the eight ball a little bit, but he's a big reason why we've had so much success over the last bunch of years and been so competitive. It's because of him and his leadership.
We're joined by Keith Tkachuk, former NHLer, former St. Louis Blue, current member in the recruitment department. Keith, when it comes to expectations now, and you were a member of the St. Louis Blues chasing a Stanley Cup, what did the Cup mean moving forward for the community, minor hockey, and ultimately maybe even the pressure that Doug Armstrong still feels to compete yet again? Did the Cup change things in so many different ways in St. Louis?
Well, it changed things because this fan base and this organization has been waiting for a long, long time. And I think it's really helped out. And you can date back to when Brett Hull came here, the significance he had on minor hockey. And it's no different during that Stanley Cup run where, you know, we came out of nowhere and just got on a run and on a heater, and we were unstoppable. And going into Boston in Game 7 and winning. I mean, this is a sports town. You've been here. It's a Cardinals town, a baseball town. They love their hockey. It would have meant so much for the city. And Doug Armstrong, since he's been here, his record is incredible. Wins, losses, are in the playoffs pretty much every year but one, maybe. So the expectation is to win every year. We had great ownership. We're always at the cap. And Doug doesn't give a shit. He'll trade anybody. Like he'll make deals. That's the one thing I love about Doug. He'll do whatever it takes to make his team better. And it's all about winning and nothing else.
Okay, I'm going to take you out of your hockey mode and go back to a dad mode, okay? And this is just me looking from afar, and this new generation of chewing mouthguards. Have you ever gone up to Matthew and just said, hold on for a second, I was the guy that like created a choke-free environment when you were like 2 years old in our house. And now I'm watching you chew this thing on breakaways and back checks. And I'm like, I can't think of a bigger choking hazard in my life than playing in the National Hockey League going 25, 30 kilometers an hour and this thing dangling from your lips. Have you ever had a conversation with him on this?
No, it's not even worth it because you know what? They're gonna learn the hard way. And that's the only way to learn. I'm not gonna tell them. I'm not gonna take their phone away. They live on their own. They make way more money than I do. I don't know what else to do. I know my wife and I spent a lot of money at the dentist and stuff. And you know what? Shame on them. It's their fault, not my responsibility anymore. I got my teeth knocked out, and I had a mouthpiece in from a slap shot from TJ Oshie, and it put a hole right through my mouth guard, and I lost 5 teeth. I couldn't imagine not having a mouth guard. It's just, you know what? Oh, well, it's up to them. They're going to learn the hard way.
There you go. Your work is done.
Yeah, that's right. Like a blackjack dealer when their shift's over.
I'm off the clock. I'm off the clock, baby.
Hey, listen, been a blast, Keith. Thanks for doing this for us.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys. Take care of yourselves.
Appreciate it.
Keith Tkachuk, proud papa.
You're concerned about the choking hazard? That's a concern of yours?
I don't get it. No. We're in the era like where we used to like almost give penalties out for a chin strap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember
and now it's
measurements?
Like, we can't, a helmet comes off. You need to go straight to the bench. You cannot make another line rush without a helmet. But I'm going to let you chew this thing around like it's you got 20 pieces of bazooka bubble gum in your mouth. No problem at all.
The big thing too is it's not just the teeth; they're actually for concussion prevention, right? Like
that's more what they're for,
right? To stop the
biting down,
the head rattling together when you get smacked.
Well,
so that you can make a real case for the health importance of them. I don't think it was a serious question, but
let's wait for the first trainer that needs to perform the Heimlich.
The mouth guard.
Patty Kane's done it his whole career,
and
too.
Then we're gonna have a discussion.
Yeah, that would be
now things get serious.
Yeah,
it's just
let me just note.
It's something that he just does. Like I bet it would feel so weird to play hockey to him without having
I
it
used to
dangled.
do it.
You did it?
Like not as much as him. Like
no.
Like McDavid's got it dangling out of his mouth while he's scoring goals. No joke.
Kane, they all do it, and it's.
I was, going up to the face-off playing with it or whatever.
It's a cool thing to do now.
All the cool kids. I just need to know, we can continue this conversation, but we are 3 for 3, our last 3 guests of blatant cursing on our show.
What is going on?
I'm glad everyone is comfortable to talk to us.
Exactly it.
Like it's a bar room.
We're putting people in the comfort zone, and we're not cussing. So it's not us. What are we supposed to do?
What do you want me to do?
I feel out of I'm not a cool kid now. I feel like I got to
chew a mouth guard.
I got to chew a mouth guard by coming up with a 4-letter.
It's great
word.
though.
It's even Sportsnet employees too. Like, what am I supposed to do here?
Sorry, Brandeo. He's kind of been thrown to the wolves here.
So he mentioned something in that interview that I think, because you guys were talking about asking about why his 2 kids sort of play the way they do. And he was mentioning that the way hockey has changed from the grassroots level, there will be a time here, fellas, in the not too distant future where there will be barely any physicality and any fighting. And
I don't think so.
You always think it's going to be there?
Yeah.
Because the
I
way
don't
that
think you can play hockey any other way.
The way, there'll be there's going to be some disagreements no matter what, but I think it's going to go even lower than it is now. Like you watch junior hockey these days. Like I watched junior hockey when I was a kid. Games cost
junior hockey was
they took 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
Like there was just all fights or whatever. And you go to a game now and there's barely a hit. There's barely any fighting. Like it's changed so much the grassroots level, and it's got to make its way up to the highest level.
I am leaning more towards JB than you, Sammy, on this.
That's fair. And I'm glad to hear that.
And I do believe that it may be a little cyclical.
Mm-hmm.
That
for sure
it will eventually turn. And I do believe that there will be a new generation that sees opportunity of creating an image or a style of play that some teams are starving for. Begging.
There is an opening
right?
If you're a guy who plays with 10% animosity.
Right.
And I think that a lot of teams saw, the game is getting – not maybe gentler, or you can be a speedy, skilled team. You don't have to worry about that part. And then like a bunch of big teams went and won and continued to pound it down their throats. And it's like, we're missing that element.
And the beauty of this generation is that you can fake it till you make it.
With that, for sure.
So
you don't have to be naturally
easier
angry.
To being, I don't want to insult anybody here playing the game today, but it's easier to bluff today than it was 20 years ago.
As long as you fight a few times, at least you're bluffing. You might have the cards,
but
if you never fight, you don't have the cards.
But there is such a demand for it right now, and it kind of brought me back to the question that I asked Keith, was that the coaches aren't asking you to go out and do this, or they're just not willing to do it anymore. But there's a lot of cash sitting at the table. And if you just upped your intensity a little bit, if you finished a few more checks, if you looked a little meaner.
Matthew and Brady's, goal output is not that much higher than the next superstars, but because they're nasty, they make $9 million a year, whatever they make.
And no one I know now he fights, but in a couple more years, no one's going to even go near Brady Tkachuk.
No.
It's like he's earned, the way that the game is going and the way that he plays feels like 2 completely different directions.
He's on my Braden Point list of guys I would pick uncomfortably early for you.
Like
He's a stud.
if
Which one would you?
if Bunting
Brady.
if Bunting was 2 inches taller and had another 15, 20 pounds on him,
Yeah.
that takes him to another level.
But
Like he's
also-
squeezing whatever he can out of 5'11" and 170
But also,
pounds.
it's mindset to me. And is he someone who actually, like, if he was bigger, would he
I think he'd have more confidence.
more confidence and
Yes.
just stay in the face and actually fight? Or, you know, again, I know there's people listening going like, Neanderthals, you don't have to fight to win. You don't. But, you know, having the element of a willingness to take it to your opponent, look them in the eye, stay on top of them and make them uncomfortable. And part of that is showing a willingness to stand in there when you do have to.
100%.
And that's, you know, there are teams that are looking for it. They recognize they need it, and it's tough to find. Teams would pay. You don't even want to know what they pay for Tom Wilson. If Tom Wilson, the Capitals dropped out and they're like, we're going to trade Wilson to death. If he was UFA.
If he was UFA this year,
Sure.
even coming off major reconstruction
Yeah.
on his knee, would probably, without blinking, look at 8 plus.
And if he were a centerman, it'd be even more. You know, if you can find that in a guy who's down the gut, which is why when Austin Matthews cross-checked Rasmus Dahlin in the throat and got a 2-game suspension, the only thing you heard from people was,
Yay! If you could only play Rasmus Dahlin every game.
right.
Who was the Minnesota Wild that just signed?
Boldy. Matt
Boldy.
Boldy.
7
Nick
times
Boldy
7.
or Matt Boldy?
Matt.
Yeah.
Matt.
Oops.
Lovely player that can beat you in many different ways.
Oh, yeah, you're a fan.
Oh, yeah. And it cost them $49 million, 7 times 7.
Gosh.
But the extra value is that he can come in with some edge, and he's a big boy.
Yeah, he's over 6'2", 200.
Right?
Is
The
there-
money. Boys, listen to me. Minor hockey players, junior players, just up your intensity a little bit. Just a little bit. There's a want.
We're going to go watch Bobby McMahon play for a third game for the Toronto Maple Leafs, strictly on the back of him being a big, strong guy, willing to go get it. You know, the most impressive thing wasn't that he ran anyone over or fought anyone. He went and got the puck first, and he was willing to take the hit in a couple of his shifts. And, you know, that all goes to a willingness and a commitment that you can't find in everyone. And by the way,
I
didn't have it. I know you did. I didn't have it. I grew up with the easy life. And I wish my parents had been crueler. I'm kidding, by the way.
You needed to walk home from practice every once in a while.
Yeah, I feel like I had a roller bag at one point, and that probably did it to me.
The old dreaded roller bag.
The classics, you know what the line is about that? That if your bag has wheels, you likely don't.
That's a good line.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have wheels, and I don't have wheels, period. So.
And listen, you can't talk anybody into it, though, right? Like, you can't tell me that a few of your coaches had kind of nudged you a little bit.
It came up. It came up.
And what was your first thought? I can do this. I'm going to try, or
well, you know, like
it's not for me.
On the forecheck, I would be more than willing to go in and finish my check. I've always finished my check. But, you know, the other element of it where you saw Jake Gensel talking to Brad Marchand in that highlight. I don't know if you saw it the other day.
Yeah, I sent it to you guys.
Yeah, but Marchand came up to him and basically was like, "You touch him again and I'll kill you," or whatever
and
he
did
said.
you see Gensel
was like,
backpedal?
"He hit me first," or something, and like backpedaled and got the ref between them and whatever.
Yeah.
Not saying Gensel's whatever, but there's a willingness of the Bruins top players.
Did you not ever play against a guy where you felt if I hit him and he doesn't get up, I'm okay with that?
That's a really wonderful question. I don't know. What are you getting at here?
All day long.
There are guys that you're like, to hell with that guy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's just
Care to name names, Kipper?
No.
Okay.
No. But I really despise Billy Guerin in New Jersey a couple of games.
I would have rather had players just go home and not be a part of the opposing team. But mine was more like...
It's when you show up to beer league and you hope the best player's not there.
I just knew that there were certain guys who had called my bluff enough times that they were going to chase me around a little bit, and I was going to have to deal with that. And that was the guy I wanted to go with.
Stick.
Well, that's what my coach would always say. He said, "You cross-check him in the teeth, and we'll kill it off for you."
Well, yeah.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to cross-check a guy in the teeth. It's not my nature. I honestly was like, I'm not.
Now he's really, really mad.
It's not in my nature.
Okay, I don't know what happened to this conversation.
I don't know. We got a good break.
Talking about guys not getting up. What's wrong with
Look
me?
at the weather outside. We're in Mordor.
Look at it out there. It's pure fog now.
It's just,
what season is it? Anyways,
I don't know. Wasn't the sun out just 24 hours ago?
yeah, but we got our 2 days of sun, and now we're destined for 100 straight more of cloud.
All right. Now that you got the weather update from Sammy McKee, let's go to break and bring back Mike McKenna from Daily Faceoff, and we'll get his thoughts on Matt Murray going back to back. Is this the start when Sheldon says,
take the reins?
All right, let's ride a number one here for the next little while. What do you think?
I think so.
Okay.
This is the one.
All right, back after this. You're watching and listening to Real Kyper and Bourne.
This is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Just waiting on Mike McKenna, Daily Faceoff hockey analyst, retired NHLer, AHLer, ECHLer. Did I miss a league?
He only played in a couple, I think. Didn't he? Just played. He'll tell us.
Always does. Do we have...
He'll definitely know about Alex Lyon.
Do we have confirmation if Alex Lyon is playing for the Florida Panthers tonight?
No confirmation. Likely starter according to Justin Bourne's guesstimeter. I got right. Bobrovsky was played last night.
4-1. Was he busy? Does that matter anymore?
Lyon is a 909 in the AHL. We got Mike.
All right, I already introduced you. I'm not doing it again, Mike.
Okay. You do what you want, Kyper. It's fine, man. I'm good.
It was really good. You missed it, but it was really good.
Yeah,
it was better than David Amber's.
Yeah.
For sure.
You got your name right.
Yeah, I got your name right and what you do.
Well, it's good. If you screwed up Mike McKenna, you'd really be in one. Yeah.
For sure.
It's
Okay.
a tough name to pronounce.
Love coming to you for the goalie situation, not only here in Toronto, but around the league. Toronto, Florida tonight. Bobrovsky played last night, 4-1 win in Buffalo. We expect maybe Alex Lyon to possibly play tonight. If that's the case, where did you see this after spending, $15 million on Spencer Knight and Bobrovsky, because this thing has been pretty much a disaster?
Well, let's preface it by saying Alex Lyon, even though he doesn't have a ton of NHL experience, is somebody who's performed really well in the Calder Cup playoffs in the American Hockey League before. He has a ton of experience there, and he does have NHL games on his resume. So, are his numbers great there? Not particularly, but he can play. He was my goalie partner my last year when I finished up in Lehigh Valley. And I think he's a pretty good goaltender. And now what you're facing, though, is when you have Spencer Knight out, you're probably not going to run Bobrovsky 2 straight games. Lions had a pretty good season so far in Charlotte. And kind of here we are, But I think it's a pretty big test for Florida because really, I don't think Bobrovsky's been great for them. I think Spencer Knight's been really up and down this year, which is not surprising considering he's only 21 years old, going to turn 22. He's still learning the league. He's still learning how to play in it. You're right. For a team with $15 million in goal, maybe we shouldn't be too surprised that the Florida Panthers are currently well outside the playoff picture.
Do you think those guys will sort it out this year, Bobrovsky and Knight?
I keep waiting for Knight to really grab that crease.
Yeah.
And I have thought that his peak this year has been better than Bobrovsky's because to me, Knight is very much a modern goaltender. He presents big. He tends to at least stay within his post a little bit better than Bobrovsky does, who can chase at times. But there's still elements of Knight's game that, to me kind of surprises me. I'm surprised that he continues to play with a pretty extreme depth for such a big guy. I don't know if that's a product of his college upbringing and who he's had previously as a coach there, or if that's just where he prefers to play. But boy, I'd sure like to see Knight take a page out of Jake Ottinger's book, a little bit deeper, stay a little bit vertical. I think they're similar goaltenders. But you look at the success that Ottinger's had, and again, he's 3 years older than Knight, but I think that's exactly the type of goaltender he needs to be looking at to really study up on and try to play similarly too.
We anytime a team struggles, especially after winning the President's Trophy, you're going to go through some decisions. And the one that I scratched my head on a little bit, Mike, is signing Spencer Knight a year removed. He's still finishing off an entry level, and next year he jumps to $4.5 million when he had no arb rights. He really had nothing there, and they just handed him 4.5 for the next 3 years. And I'm wondering, did they miss out on losing a big carrot dangling on him this year?
Well, it sure makes you wonder about it. And I know that the knock on Spencer Knight, and this is in a good way, I shouldn't say knock, but one of the things he's known for is just being a really mentally strong, prepared goaltender. well-rounded individual, not just as a goaltender. But I saw that contract and I just went, whoa. Like, much the same thoughts as you here. Like, why are we just handing it to him right now? Like, this is supposed to be a value play down the road, and I understand that teams are much more willing to gamble with contracts nowadays. It's not any different than some of the 7-8 year deals we've seen with players coming out of, restricted free agency. But, I hadn't seen anything from Knight to tell me that he was going to be a guaranteed $4.5 million goaltender. I thought that he had the potential to do that, absolutely. But I don't think from a motivation factor, it's going to affect him at all. I think just from the salary cap standpoint, I mean, like, that's a lot of money to tie up and a big gamble when you still don't know whether you're going to be able to get rid of Sergei Bobrovsky or not. I don't think there's an expectation to finish out that contract, if at all possible, in Florida. So I was really surprised when their GM, Bill Zito, gave that deal out. But I tell you what, I was really happy for the goalie union, because that $4.5 million sure looks good around the league when you're looking at comparables. Mm-hmm. And that's good for everybody that puts the gear on. I just don't think it's good business for some of ththese teams.
Sure. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think you probably spend a lot of time looking at goaltenders versus their contracts and how they're outperforming or underperforming. Obviously, Jack Campbell has come up this season quite a bit. He was a name I wanted to ask you about only because you had for quite a while mentioned that he had outdated gear and was playing in sort of, he hadn't used sort of the newest equipment, and he has since made that change. Have you noticed anything different in his play since then, or what would be different going from old gear to new gear for a goalie?
Yeah, he's won 3 straight games, and he's allowed 2 goals or less in 5 of the 6 that he started since he updated his gear around the holiday break.
I love it.
So, and here's the thing. It's easy for me to look towards an article I wrote a while ago that, took off a little bit and say, hey, I told you so. And I don't think that I single-handedly guilted Jack Campbell into modernizing his equipment. I know that this was a process that had been undertaken for some time. The encouragement factor, at least, to try to get him to update his gear, because his pads they were so soft and flexible. And I mean, he's probably given up a half dozen goals a year through his 5-hole just because his gear was crappy. And it wasn't just that. He had a puck go through his glove in Dallas, early in the season. So he made the switch to a different company, the same one that Carter Hart wears, and they train together in the summertime. And his new gear is a little bit boxier, a little bit stiffer, a little bit more modern. And sometimes it's just a confidence thing. Who knows if the gear is actually making extra saves? But it's not just gear. Like, I've seen Campbell, to me, be more patient on his edges. I think he's been better about finding pucks through traffic. Those were 2 troublesome areas. The one thing I see that he still doesn't do well, he still doesn't rotate very efficiently. His lower body doesn't rotate in the same way as his upper body. He kind of fights against himself, and at times has a hard time getting across with the entire package. But I think some of the other things, like I say, like patience is so important for a goaltender on their edges. Campbell was dropping early. He was pushing the envelope at the beginning of the season. I've seen that be dialed back in these last couple games. He just looks more relaxed, more patient, and really more confident in his movements and his save selections.
We've heard stories of like Brendan Shanahan wearing the same shoulder pad since like minor Adam. Are goalies the same way? Do you know of goalies that just go, no, this stuff works for me. I don't care how old it is.
It used to absolutely be like that. Brendan Shanahan also used the Easton Classic aluminum shaft that he had to buy out the remaining stock from Easton years ago because they didn't make that log anymore. It was the heaviest stick. It was like 110 flex, and he just couldn't quit with them. So that was pretty cool. I mean, Mike Madonna wore 652 tacks clear until the end of his career almost, I think. But
Love
for
gear,
goalies,
guys. Listen to you.
Oh, I could go on and on and on. I mean, Wes Walls had to retire because they couldn't get the right socks for him anymore, guys. Like, we have all kinds of weird things out there. But
that's legit.
When we're
Is it true?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
When we're talking about Marty Brodeur, there's a guy who wore the same arm and chest protector for the better part of like 20 years, man. And it took him actually getting injured before he realized, I've got to update. And he ended up getting one of Pekka Rinne's old pro return arm and chests, and he started to kind of update his gear in his last years. I think until recently you would see some goalies use gear for 2, 3, 4 seasons if it was like an upper body gear, right? An arm and chest protector maybe. That would be more common than it would be gloves, blockers, pads. Goalies especially, would get new gear It's just how they like it. Do they like it stiff? Do they like it flexible? And largely, we've really gone away from the super flexible gear. We've gone to more stiff gear that kicks rebounds out hard, that gets the puck away from us as quickly as we can.
We're going to see Matt Murray play again tonight. Many thought, including me, they probably go back to Samsonov. I'm not sure if you watched Saturday night, but maybe a couple of goals that a few people questioned. But is this a start that we can look on and say now they're going to lean towards one guy more than the other? Someone even suggested to me, Mike, that he's played more games on the road than at home, and they want to give him more home games now. Is that even a thing?
It can be a thing if it starts to be really, burdensome after a while. In some ways, it is tougher to play continually on the road, and you just want to start one at home because you can just, you drive up in your car, you just feel more comfortable sometimes. Like, it's tough to be a road warrior. I think it's a strength for the Maple Leafs to have two goaltenders that are obviously capable and they've played good hockey this year in moments. I didn't catch all of Saturday night's game because I was at a squirt hockey tournament in the Wisconsin Dells. And I got to tell you, that place is unbelievable, by the way. Our squirt C1 team got beat by a team from Chicago that had a ringer on it that this kid didn't have any matching gear. He didn't even have his name on the back of his jersey when every other kid did. So the fix was in. But in any case, I've seen good and bad from Murray. I don't think there's been a whole lot of evolution to his game throughout this season. I think that at times he's really pushed the urgency envelope in a good way, but I still worry about the scouting report, right? Like, everybody knows, get the puck airborne, beat him side to side. He's going to get low and locked. Like, that hasn't changed at all. And I think that he's kind of gotten caught up with that, whereas I think with Samsonov, he's a little bit more dynamic. But he's also more prone to allowing goals that befuddle you at times, and especially if he starts to get deep in his crease. That's the one confidence tell for me with Samsonov. So I'd also like to know how to properly pronounce his name because he's gone back and forth 2 or 3 times. It's really tough on me.
No one can call you on anything. Just pick a direction.
Go
right.
Sammy.
So, you know what? In general here, though, guys, like, I would like to see the Leafs get to a point where one of these two starts to play 2 out of 3 games. That's what I would like to see. I think that'd be a good mix, especially heading towards the Stanley Cup playoffs when, frankly, you have 2 guys you don't know if they're going to be healthy or not. So they both do need to be playing, but man, you'd really like to ramp one of them up to get prepared for that high-intensity playoff series that's upcoming in a couple months.
Hey, I got a question for you here that's probably a little loaded because I'm thinking about Morgan Rielly. But when you're on the ice as a forward, I'm always aware of who my D-men are, because they play different ways depending on who they are. When you're a goaltender, how aware do you have to be of the D pair that your team has on the ice? Like, okay, I know I've got this guy who's a risk taker. Maybe I'm more likely to see chances coming than I normally would. Is that a thing, or are you just kind of locked into the other team's offense?
Well, I can tell you about the 2011 training camp that I spent with the Ottawa Senators, and they had a guy named Carlson on that team, and I was very, very aware of the game that I played in St. John's for Hockeyville when EK65 was on the ice, because I knew we might be scoring, but I also knew it might be coming the other direction real fast. And
they're going 4 forwards, 1D, eh?
Yeah, I mean, this was early in his career too, man, where he was just, wheeling, right? And you do have to be aware because you tend to face different types of shots. And this isn't, you know what your strengths are for your defenseman, right? Like Erik Karlsson, world-class talent. He's a great puck rusher, but you do know you may face odd man rushes coming the other direction. So that's how you kind of have to gauge things is knowing the threat, knowing who on your team as a defenseman is more willing to push a player further up the wall that might expose something a little bit deeper, or especially on the penalty kill. Which of your players likes to block shots and how they like to block shots? Do they take the inside lane away? Do they like to get right in front? So, yeah, absolutely. I think the best goalies out there are very aware of their defensemen and their tendencies, more so whether than they go, oh, this guy sucks. I think it's more so they think, right, I got to be ready for this to happen because I know it's something I've seen before.
What has surprised you more out of Seattle, that they're 26-13-4 and knocking on the door of being one of the top teams in the Western Conference halfway through, or that it's come off the back of Martin Jones?
I think it's probably that the team is that good. And here's why. Martin Jones, to me, was smart to go to Philadelphia last year. And the reason being is that he reunited with Kim Dillabaugh, the goalie coach of the Philadelphia Flyers, and they'd worked together previously for the Los Angeles Kings organization when Dillabaugh was the development goalie coach and Jones was coming up through the ranks. And that's when I thought he played some of his best hockey. So I think he went there, retooled his game a little bit, and he's been a winning machine for the Kraken. Now, I mean, I just wrote a piece about Vezina power rankings for this year, and his .895 save percentage isn't going to put him in the mix for a Vezina anytime soon. But the guy just keeps winning. Like, he's making big saves when he needs to. I just didn't see the Kraken being able to rattle off these games. They've come together in a way that's really surprised me. You've got Vince Dunn playing like an all-star on the blue line. Jared McCann's playing the best hockey I've ever seen from him. I mean, Burakovsky, what a signing, right? It's everything you would have expected or hoped from him. So it really does surprise me, and it's great to see Jones being a big part of that. But you do have to wonder, right, what's the ceiling? Again, like the traditional numbers, they don't look great. The advanced numbers, they're okay. But he's winning, man. And I tell you what, I'll take a winning goalie over with okay stats than I will a losing goalie with incredible numbers at this stage. You just got to find ways to win.
Yeah, for sure. And which is why I want to ask you, Ullmark, is it sustainable for him? Is he really this good?
Can I ask him one more question on Seattle?
Please do.
Just one more before we go to that one.
Yes.
I'm really loving your stuff, by the way, Mike.
Thank you.
As the back half goes, and Seattle now really feels like it's their playoff spot to lose, do they say, hey, we've come this far with Martin Jones, but let's get Grubauer going, or do you just keep rolling with it? Because I don't trust Martin Jones.
Well, do you trust Philip Grubauer more?
I have to. I'm paying him over almost $6 million.
But for a team like Seattle, here's the argument I take.
They're ahead of
the curve. They're ahead of the curve right now. You've got to get Grubauer to at least play some games in case. And I think it's a big picture thing. It's kind of like saying, are they going to add at the deadline? You know, are they going to add a goalie? I don't think they're going to add a goalie. Are they going to add players to make that team better and make a playoff or a Stanley Cup run? I'm not sure of that either. I like what's going on there. I do think that you'd want to see more of the 2-to-1 mix. Now, here's the thing. Seattle right now they're in a dogfight out there in the Pacific, which I don't think we really expected, right? Like, they're 2 points off Vegas. Los Angeles is right there. And guys, Evander Kane's coming back for the Edmonton Oilers tonight, okay? That team is dangerous. I don't care what anybody thinks. And I don't think Calgary and Colorado are far off either. So if Seattle gets towards the deadline and they're still in the place they are, if they're rising up through the standings, I really don't think goalie's going to be what they add at, because I don't think Ron Francis looks at that realistically thinking we're going to win the Cup this year. But you know what? If it gets to the offseason and they start to look objectively, if they could move Grubauer's deal, I think I would definitely take a look at it. But I think they're probably going to stand pat with Jones.
All right. And then my last one there was just on Ullmark. And is it sustainable? Is he really a Vezina-type goaltender?
A .936 save percentage is not sustainable.
No, okay.
It will drop. But for what I've seen from Ullmark this year, the first thing I see is that there's been a decent delta between him and Jeremy Swayman as goalie partner. That means a lot to me. He's outperformed his goalie partner. Now, Swayman's gotten better as the season's gone on. That delta has shrunk. But there's elements to Ullmark's game that I really like, and he's not trying to do too much anymore. He played for the Buffalo Sabres for the better part of 4 or 5 seasons where it was all on his shoulders, and he was trying so hard. And I think even last year there was a bit of that with the Bruins. He's more restrained. He's got great hands for a Swedish goaltender, which is rare. And it turns out that's because he didn't have a whole lot of coaching growing up, coming up through Sweden. He was always one of the mid-tier goalies, not the greatest goalie. So he kind of had to figure things out for himself. I like his fundamentals. I like his hands. I don't think it's sustainable. I think by the end of the year, is he going to be a Vezina finalist? I think he's going to be a finalist. But to me, it all depends on whether the Islanders or the Predators make the playoffs. Because right now, Sorokin and Saros, they should be in the mix. Connor Hellebuck should be in the mix. Even Jake Ottinger. It's going to be a while before we really figure out who's going to take that trophy home.
All right, buddy. We've exhausted you.
Thank you for your great work today.
You never exhaust me. This is fun. It's goalies.
It's goalies.
Always appreciate your time, Mike. Thanks for doing this, pal.
Anytime. Thanks for having me, guys. Talk to you later.
I can almost make up a name for a goalie, and I bet you he'd have good facts on him.
I know.
Flurb
McNeebles.
I could throw
and he'll be like,
name out, and he's
McNeebles.
Like, yeah,
Great
6-1 last year, and
yeah,
save percentage. Enjoys fishing in the off season. Know him well.
He's dialed. He's absolutely dialed.
McKenna's the best. First of all, second of all, he was harping on the Jack Campbell thing last year with the
the equipment.
He was saying he's got to get new gear, and then he went to. He didn't say the name of the company, but I will because I love the gear. It's Brian's, which is a good Canadian company. I think it's made down in Windsor area, but they have they do all the cool custom ones. You know, like the when the Coyotes have a cool one, or like the Kraken. They always have these really cool. So I've always liked them a lot. Anyways, just wanted to say that.
And that's Brian's gear is awesome,
and that's the brand he got.
Yeah.
But I did disagree with him on Seattle's goaltending. I think this back half they're going to have to find a way to get Grubauer back in being the guy.
You know, I don't.
Not Martin Jones. And Jones has done a great job up until now, but I don't think that's sustainable.
Well, that's the conversation, because you don't care who does it. You know, you have an $80 million salary cap, and who cares who stops the puck as long as one of them stops the puck. But you're right. Do you believe that Martin Jones is suddenly a different goaltender than he's been? Probably not.
No, I don't.
And so you kind of want to see the guy who you expect to be better have a run and find it. Yeah. And that's what's happening in Toronto.
That's a fun conversation for Ron Francis to have with the head coach of the team.
Yeah. Play the guy who's playing worse.
Dave, the guy that stinks, can you get him a few looks?
Yeah.
Versus the guy that's carrying us through all these games that we're winning?
And, you know, again, be careful, because when Martin Jones has an 895 and Grubauer has an 888.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right.
How it's how not like better? He's stealing games for you. Like, he's not 936.
I did want to note, yesterday we were like the Seattle team. They have, Friedman noted in his 32 Thoughts piece, their shooting percentage like the highest in recorded history as a team. So you can expect them to score a little bit less in future months. But yes, the goaltending not going to get any worse. Like, they're at least 895, 898 guys or better. So yeah, I don't know. I'm with you though. So this is it when you take it to Toronto, is if Murray and Samsonov are kind of playing about the same quality, you want to see it be the guy you're paying $5 million and you have under contract for another year. So he's going to get the opportunities first. Yep. Which is that why he's in tonight? Maybe.
Was just one more on Seattle. Their leading goal scorer.
What's your thing on Seattle? No. Why do you like Seattle? What's up with Seattle?
Was it not a former Toronto Maple Leaf?
Oh, McCann, who is shooting 28% this year.
He's scoring a lot, huh? Now, is that more
kept Kerfoot over McCann?
Oh, I hadn't heard that. Did they do that?
Was it that easy? Was it that?
It was Hall, too. They protected Hall and Kerfoot and traded McCann.
I forget that.
That was a bit of a whoopsie, I think. Might want that one back. I remember,
but McCann's also making 5, is he not?
Yeah, he is.
Right.
Do you remember when they did the expansion draft? And there was like, they had filmed the
Kevin Weeks, fish
whipping the squid or whipping the fish out there, and it said Alex Kerfoot, and everybody got all excited, and then they went to the actual thing, and it ended up being
they leaked the wrong fish.
Yeah, the wrong fish.
Exciting moments.
Bet on the wrong fish.
Yeah.
Mike did mention Evander Kane.
What's your deal with Seattle? Why are you so interested in Seattle?
I'm just fascinated that, like, I thought they were horrible this year to start. Yeah. I thought that Hacksaw couldn't get the job done. I was wrong on that one.
Yeah, I'm with you that there was year two. Is his job on the line?
We just watched them do something that no NHL team in history has done, and that's win 7 consecutive road games. Like,
all right.
And
they've got a Vegas thing going right now, and that is
they do have a Vegas thing going.
More misfit toys are having great success.
The league stacked the cards in their favor again, and they're getting they're balanced.
Hate that. Hate the league stack the cards in their favor.
Well, they're balanced, and look at their picks. They have this year. They have their first. They have 3 seconds. They have 2 fourths. 2 sixths.
Wow.
Like, they're just stacked with these picks. I mean, they have the second from the Leafs trade with Giordano. If they are in it at the deadline, they are a big-time player for somebody.
Has the league made any announcements on who the fans have been
Thursday.
So they don't do updates to see who's leading or anything like that in the vote getting. And I only bring this up,
Kipper, I haven't seen one thing.
Because Shane Wright is eligible to be voted for.
Oh no. What are you doing here?
I'm just telling you that he could
NHL All-Star
He
vote.
could be the first guy to get called up from Junior A hockey to play in an NHL All-Star game.
Do you know I got sent down to play in the ECHL All-Star game? I was in the American League.
How did you get into that game?
I was in the American League.
But don't you have to be in the league to be in a position to be?
Apparently not. I was sent down
to score in the
go.
All-Star game?
I had 3 assists. Is that good?
Is that because the owner put you in?
I have no idea what happened. I was in the.
Did you ask questions during your career?
None. I just went where I was told. They sent me. I was in line at Tim Hortons, and the line went back and forth like an airport lineup. And Capuano was the head coach, Jack Capuano, and he was going the other way, and he saw me and like forgot that I existed. And he's like, "Oh, Bourne." He's like, "You're leaving tomorrow at 4 a.m. You're going to the All-Star game." I was like, "The what?" The ECHL All-Star game. And then then we kept going, and I did. So I faced him 3 more times, and I didn't say a word. I just.
If Cappy doesn't want a chocolate donut, you never played in that game.
That's so true. I flew across the country. I was in Connecticut. The All-Star game was the next day in Stockton, California. I was the first person in the skills contest going the length of the rink and doing the pylons. Anyway.
Incredible.
I think I don't even know if that's even possible, if he's eligible or ineligible. I just know that Shane Wright was one of the guys that was his name was at the time
one of the write-in vote options,
or on the card or whatever's on the fan ballot. Can you find a fan ballot on?
I haven't seen one thing about it, Kipper. I'm on Twitter all day long. With
it's almost like
people.
the NHL doesn't want the John Scott thing to happen.
We don't know if there's a potential John Scott coming.
We know nothing.
The league doesn't want us to feel the momentum and get behind it.
They can still pick whoever the hell they want. We'd never know.
Bingo.
Hashtag push for Pontus.
So, hey, I got to ask you a question because we were talking about the goalies, and it's 2 straight starts for Murray now. And I think you could argue that the Jets at home on Thursday is an even bigger game than this. I know that's a division rival, but you think about the rivalry between the Jets and the Leafs, and that's been a real thing. Like, if Murray wins tonight and he plays well, you're going to go to Samsonov in that game? Or are you going to go Murray? Like, is there a chance for him to get 3 in a row here?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And
because I just think it's an important game for the Leafs against the Jets.
What do you think
I think 2 out of 3 is a big deal.
Yeah.
So do I.
But not 3 out of 4.
Okay.
I don't know.
What do you think was, Samsonov chose Toronto and presumably had other options, and he didn't get paid a ton of money to do it. Presumably they told him, we'll give you at least 30 starts if you're healthy.
I got to think there was a verbal agreement.
You're going to get it.
You're not here to sit and wait.
Yeah. Yeah, that's part of the deal when you're trying to get people signed. And obviously none of that is binding. They can do whatever they want if he's not playing well, but he's not played poorly on the whole. So, yes, I expect he would get the next game.
But regardless, to Sammy's point, if it's Samsonov Thursday against Winnipeg or not, these are good challenges coming off of a Boston Bruin game this week.
It is interesting that Mike notes that like Samsonov is a more dynamic, athletic type guy, and Murray is, they're different stylistically.
Shot blocker, Murray.
Right. And does one of them make you feel any more comfortable in the playoffs against the Tampa Bay Lightning? I guess Murray's the answer.
I just don't think that Leaf fans have seen long stretches long enough to fall into a comfort zone
with anyone.
And we're over half the season now.
Yeah.
That has to change. And it's not just the fan base, it's the players.
Yeah.
The players have to start really feeling like this guy's our guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, are they going to go against the percentages or the odds of having a true number 1 start the playoffs, and we will see a 1-1A?
If Murray plays great tonight, I'd love to see him go again Thursday.
Do you think there's a world where Samsonov could play well enough to earn a contract before the season ends?
No. I think it's a brand spanking new, different goalie.
What if he's a 920 this year and goes, you're going to walk me to UFA as a 920? Bye.
Yeah, well, exactly. K-bye. They can't afford that.
Okay, but what does K-bye mean?
It means he goes to play for another hockey team.
And what are they going to pay him?
No idea. I don't know.
Well, he's not like he's leaving.
4 times 4 for a 920, 25-year-old who's a first rounder?
Did you play in the playoffs?
I did not.
Okay, then I'm not paying you 4. I'm not.
You don't think someone will give him that kind of number? 3.5, maybe?
On a 2-year deal?
That low, eh?
I need to go now into a 4 or a 5. You need
to be the starter.
I'm signing you so you could be my starter at that money.
It's true that you basically as a backup make 2 and as a starter make 5, and otherwise we're not doing the inverse of that.
But you can't get caught by paying a very, very, in your opinion, a very, very good backup goalie $4 or $4.5 million.
Generally, if you pay someone 4, you're hoping that you have a starter that you're getting cheap, a value starter like Matt Murray at 4.675.
Florida signed. Why did they sign Spencer Knight
to be
at
the
4.
starter?
Because they envisioned a world where Bobrovsky's gone by a year and a half.
How do they make that happen?
I don't know. They buy him out.
Sheets. Yeah.
They buy him out. That's what you do.
Yeah. That makes sense.
And
how about
go on. No, I was
going to turn the page.
Turn the page, baby. Turn it.
We done on Vancouver? Anything else to say after yesterday's fallout?
Yeah, I don't see much more other than just another head scratcher.
Okay. Edmonton, Vander Kane returns tonight back from his hand surgery, wrist surgery. He says he is not 100% in terms of shooting it, but is what it's going to be, and he says no excuses. He's back. Yamamoto on long-term IR.
Which if I'm telling you I can't shoot the way I wanted to shoot.
You just made an excuse?
That is a somewhat of a reason why I may not score as much as you'd like.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll do a 100-meter dash. My hamstring hurts, but no excuses. Wait a second.
But he's also got other elements in his game that will lift the Edmonton Oilers. No questions about that.
Was it his right hand? I'm asking because can he no longer fight? Would you be someone, is he less threatening now?
I had no problem keeping my glove on if I had a hurt hand and still slugging at you.
Who was it that just decked someone over the net?
Sergachev.
Toughest drilled a Garland or something like that?
Garland and got fined?
Nothing. Oh, yeah.
He got fined.
Yeah, $5,000 fine.
Oh, yeah. His.
I loved it, though. Because Garland was in there,
Such a sucker. Over the net. No, he can't even come back on him. Smallest guy in the team. Classic fake tough guy move by Sergachev. Just
what Sammy said about him, though? He was like, leave it to Tampa to find.
Garland was an innocent on there. He's trying to swing at
he was
Sergachev.
stuck behind the net. There was the net between them, Kyper, and he punched him in the face. I did watch it. I watched it 100 times.
Bring it up.
Garland's phony baloney,
Bring it up. I want to see it again. Garland was like a chihuahua on my pant leg. I would have slugged him, too.
Oh, give me a break. That's the classic tough guy, fake tough guy move. Pick on the smallest guy on the ice. Keep the gloves on.
No, look. Watch Garland.
Free, going in, digging. Oh, yeah, he's going after him.
He's going after him. That about enough of you. Okay?
I was saying,
you know what that is? That's a classic scram beat it.
Yeah, I can't stand Sergachev.
Garland did spear Vasilevsky, or at least stuck him a little bit.
That's a big fish eating a little fish right there.
Leave it to Tampa Bay to find a greasy defenseman like that.
I'm disappointed in the league finding him.
No, that's a bad punch.
That's a sucker in the face.
Stop it.
Listen.
Garland's hair makes it really WWE that he's able to toss it.
Sergachev takes shots at guys all the time. Remember when he did it to Marner when he went in on the empty net and he came up with the shoulder into the bean? Tavares had to go after him.
Sergachev's the good kind of greasy.
I guess.
I mean, it's not like he's been suspended or he's done.
I think he's been suspended, hasn't he?
Oh, probably.
Speaking of Tampa, are they knocking on the Leafs door of home ice advantage here?
I honestly haven't looked at the standings.
Well, take a look.
I'm here right now. They're 2 points behind with 2 games in hand.
Oh, really?
Yeah, leading in points percentage.
That's why I don't look at the standings, boys.
We do want the Leafs on the road to start.
I would agree. Actually, no, I don't. Well, you know
They'll
what?
take one for sure.
I was about to be the fifth guy to swear today, but I almost said who gives. But like, who cares? At this point, I'll take a game 7, man.
I'm just
Why
trying
not?
to kill time until the show's over.
No, but like at this point, with all the scars that they have, they lose home ice game 7, they lose on the road game 7. Doesn't matter. Wherever it starts, doesn't matter.
So hold on. Are we at the point?
Let's find out how that happens between now and then and see how you feel.
Wow. What do you mean by that? Like how the Leafs?
I don't
blow
know.
it
Maybe
Tampa,
power play sucks. Maybe they can't keep the puck out of their own net. Maybe the goalies are horrible. Are you going to still have that nonchalant attitude?
Yes, because it's just it doesn't. The regular season really doesn't matter anymore as long as you keep up a decent winning percentage. I mean, Buffalo's not going to catch them. No one else is catching them.
Tonight is like, can Dryden Hunt take a spot? Or sorry, Dryden Hunt. Can what's his name? Bobby McMahon earn a full-time spot as a Toronto Maple Leaf?
I am interested in the game tonight. I'm interested to get a look at the Cats.
Bunting,
with,
Matthews, Nylander, Yarncroc, Tavares, Marner, McMahon, Kampf, Engvall.
Yeah,
You like that?
I'm a Bobby fan.
McMahon, Kampf, Engvall is 6'2" to 6'5", 200
That's
pounds
legit.
plus.
Big line.
That's a big line. Rangy. Vision 6'9", Masai. And then
Can I get-
Aston Reese, Kerfoot, Hunt is the fourth line.
Can I convince Bobby to throw a Sergachev punch to Matthew Tkachuk at the right time?
No.
No?
Maybe.
Asking too much?
I don't know. I don't really know what his nasty streak's like. I don't feel like I've got enough of a taste of it. But he's a big guy, skates hard, so maybe he's got it in him.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm a quick year by year fight
Pim
totals of
look like?
Bobby McMahon. There's nothing there.
Okay.
Nothing.
He's from the.
Did he get shortchanged and argue with someone at the cash registers? Cashierist?
Come on, no fights.
Nothing. Nothing.
I can't find anything.
No, he doesn't. He's not.
I could be wrong. Sorry.
In his last year,
Can I get him to raise his voice?
Colgate University had 58 PIMs in 34 games. Maybe,
Pims?
Yeah, that's maybe a little nasty, but yeah, no.
All right.
Probably not.
What do you got for predictions tonight?
Florida's goaltending. Come on, if the Leafs can't.
Back to back. Oh, here's a stat for
Leafs
you.
are good for 4 tonight, aren't they, on this guy?
Panthers are one of the worst teams in second game of back-to-backs this season, 1-4-0. Meanwhile, the Maple Leafs are the best team when the opponent is on a second of a back-to-back at 7-0-0. So, good night to bet on the Leafs.
6-2 final.
Ooh, a lot of goals?
Yes.
That'd be nice. And while we're doing stats before the end of the
Sammy,
show.
what do you got for me? I got a convincing win for the Leafs.
If you're heading to your local sports book, I would consider the over.
Yeah, that's a good one. Mitch Marner leads the league in points on game-opening goals. 4 goals and 11 assists. 15 opening goals for the Leafs.
That matter, Kipper?
Useful or useless?
Yeah, absolutely useful.
Yeah?
Yeah. He's your engine, boys.
Sammy said when he told me that. He said it's an engine one.
Okay.
Gets everybody going.
Tavares and Nylander, they need a bounce-back game. I don't think they were very good Saturday night.
Matthews, 2 goals tonight.
Okay, our
Book
thanks
it.
to Keith Tkachuk, Mike McKenna, and who am I missing?
Jovanovski.
Oh, Ed Jovanovski. Great 2 hours. We're back again tomorrow. Enjoy your night, everybody, and give us a rating and review if you can, and thumbs up on our YouTube channel. Have a great one.
From the